Thank you. Thank you very much. We did a lot of things this week. Government is struggling to deep clean and sanitize schools. So we got a sponsor that came in and did deep cleaning and sanitizing of schools. We handed out food parcels to 450 kids and their families, and we made 5,000 chef quality meals for kids.
It's incredible.
In different schools. So it was wonderful. And on Saturday, on Mandela Day, we made this wonderful, delicious soup. It's winter currently here in South Africa. It's very cold. So, and we fed 1,000 kids on Saturday alone.
Incredible.
So it was
amazing.
It was,
Amazing.
Can we have soup for supper now? Are you making me all like hungry now? Oh my gosh. Let's taste it.
I'd like to say something just while we're waiting, see if a few more people are coming in. But Naftali, who is part of this group, has not been around for quite a few weeks, and he's not been able to take part because he came to Israel about 2.5 months ago in order to be with his mother, and she passed away last week. So he's in mourning at the moment and not able to join us. But I wanted to say something about his mother, who he spoke a little bit about her in his story. And for the past 2.5 years, since he had this like special conversation with her, she said 2 things to him. One was like, "Don't worry," and the other was, "I love you." I think it was like very special that he, with all that he does, because he's very, very busy. Sonda and Shira definitely know that, and Maxine, who's not here at the moment, but they all work closely together with him. And he's just the doer. He just doesn't stop doing. And the fact that he suddenly took off. And I know he hasn't stopped doing, and I know he's still interacting with people, but he just decided this is very important that I come and be with my mother. And he left his wife and family back in England just to be with her
for months,
so that she wouldn't be alone and that she would feel loved towards the end of her life. And it's such a tribute to his respect for his parents, for both his parents. The love of his mother. It was like really beautiful thing to see. She was just like a fantastic woman, really feisty with a like great sense of humor. That, you know, she wouldn't take any rubbish from anybody, but loving at the same time, loving without saying I love you for all those years. But she did something for my father, because my mother passed away when she was in her 60s. And my father was bereft. He's come to live in Israel. He didn't have any friends, and he had family here, 3 daughters. But one of his daughters, that was me, just before my mother passed away, we gave birth to our daughter, who has Down syndrome, and she had like really serious heart problems. And I was in and out of hospital. And that time that I wanted to be there for my father, I wasn't really able to. And I searched around for like, who can be there for my father? And I picked up the phone to Naftali's mother, who I didn't really know very well. And I just said, please invite my father around. And her husband, like every Sabbath, they would call him, do you want to come and be with us? And they were just like friends to him. And she made sure that he wasn't by himself. And it was such a lovely, caring thing to do. And I don't want to take up too much more time, but anyway, in her memory, just that we should be that loving, caring for other people.
Amen. Beautiful. Yes. So let us start. Let's start with an introduction. Has anybody ever heard of Nicki Minaj?
Let me get this over with.
Let's take
Nicki
a vote.
Minaj?
Hands up, have you heard of Nicki Minaj? Okay, right, very good. So, I can see. Yeah, there we are. We got a hand from Talani as well, a technological hand there. So, Nikki, we'd really like to know, who are you? Maybe share with us a story so that we understand the essence of who you are.
Well, I'm just starting to figure that out 47 years later, but I can tell you that I was born on the 5th of September 1972, which was in the UK on the same day as the Munich massacres. And my parents, which was a bit of a thing going forward in my life, I think, because my parents left London. They moved back to South Africa when I was 3 months old. And I grew up in South Africa probably during the beginning of the end of the apartheid era. So I grew up in a middle to upper class white Jewish community in Johannesburg. And I am ashamed to say I was completely unaware of the racial prejudice that went on around me. My parents protected us. We were in this bubble of love and care. I have got very cherished, very fond memories of my childhood, but I knew nothing about what was going on down the road from my house, which bothered me when I eventually found out, because we were really, really unaware. I think I still have a lot of child in me today, because I did love that bubble of protection and love. It was a happy place, and I think that child has become an integral part of my inner self to protect me from anything on the outside world. I know, again, I was like not even 4 years old when the Soweto uprising happened, and again, I knew nothing. The news was censored, but also my parents were really, really responsible for just making sure we grew up thinking the world was a very happy place where people lived happily together and safe, and there was no anger and there was no fear. And they succeeded in really making me believe that until I was about 14 years old. So, I mean, even at 14, I did know about the uprising. I wrote about it in my diary. I used to keep a lot of diaries, and I found the diary extract on the commemoration of the riots. And all I wrote about was how unfair it was for police to be able to search through other people's homes. I don't think I understood the magnitude of what the riots were actually about. And obviously later on I did, but it bothered me so much because I grew up thinking everything was loving and happy. Again, we had domestic servants in our house. They were part of the family. So they never spoke about their lives. They brought us up. We were very respectful to them. We had to be. That was my mother's. We grew up in like a bubble of everyone living happily together in a house. And I think my first encounter with anything negative was when I was 15 years old, and I was in high school. And my sister, she was very beautiful, and she was sitting on the railing of the tuck shop at school. And we were in the line to buy some food at the tuck shop, and a little girl walked past her and pushed her off the railing very casually, but on purpose. I don't know how it happened, but very, very much on purpose. And I watched my sister fall off the railing and smash her chin on the floor. And all I remember seeing was so much blood. And I ran to get help because I was alone with her there. And when I came back, I just saw the same girl that had pushed her off the railing, almost like standing there, but smiling, definitely smiling. And after that, I think I became very sensitive, because I couldn't understand why somebody could knowingly do that to somebody else and not get upset. It was a really traumatic incident, and they just stood there and they watched it and they did it. And I think that's probably when I clearly defined myself as somebody that had a very deep desire to, I felt people's pain. I think that was when I started to feel it, even on the opposite side of the world. Sometimes much too much. I found out about what was going on in Rwanda. I used to cry about it. I remember like everybody's pain just washed over me at that time that was my exposure to pain. And it was almost like the wound that my sister had opened up a huge, big crevice for me of negativity. But yet, because I'd grown up in such positivity, I didn't let it get me down, but I did take it on. I took on a lot of the world's suffering and bullying particularly. So I remember at school, I wasn't outspoken about it, and I would watch children get bullied, okay? And I would make sure that I would go to them when they were sitting alone afterwards and ask if they were okay, just so that they knew there was somebody that cared. But I wouldn't do anything because I was also very careful to not upset the bullies. So I know that I would know that. I remember also clearly another incident where one of the girls that was bullying everybody would definitely come up to me. I had the best packed lunch. In South Africa, we don't have hot lunches, so we would get packed lunch, and my parents would give me, as I say, I lived in a very happy, protected bubble, the best packed lunch. And I would see this girl coming to me and I knew she was going to take away the lunch, but I would give it to her before she could even ask, so that I would just prevent any. So they were my friends as well, the bullies, which was interesting. But I think what was interesting is that I was the quiet one at school, but I used to observe. I used to observe quite a lot, and I used to write a lot in my diaries. I've got extensive diaries today that I can actually factually corroborate a lot of this. So it's been not difficult to go back. And I do love writing because I think it helped me process things, and it helped me process what I saw and helped me cope better with it. And it helped me observe and probably notice a lot of the unnoticed. I would love to watch the people that people didn't notice and go and talk to them and find out about them. And grew up obsessed with Jewish people and the Holocaust as well, which was an event of bullying on another massive scale, but obsessed. When survivors finally began to speak, I was obsessed in finding out absolutely their stories. And it broke my heart into tiny pieces, but yet I would be obsessed with finding the miracles of the Holocaust and finding those stories where they survived and they triumphed through that was my thing. And even Edith Eger's The Choice, I think that healed my broken heart, because it was amazing to me that no one could force a person to lose their gift of making a choice to see the light in life, no matter how much dark there was. So I did grow up in the history of South Africa's change, and I did see Mandela and his wife. I remember I wrote about it in my diary, when he walked out of jail after 27 years. I remember writing about it in my diary. But actually, looking back now, I didn't write how incredible it was of what he'd gone through, because actually what I loved the most about it was, now looking back, how much he maintained his controlled and calm attitude and positive outlook on life after suffering so much pain, because that's a huge lesson for the world. And I think it wasn't until much later on in my life, when I was married with children, that I discovered the Loving Classroom textbook with these 8 virtues, that I linked that Mandela was living these virtues, and that there was actually a technique to what he had done, and to overcoming all the darkness. And I think that there's many life lessons that we can learn from watching people who have overcome darkness, because that inspires me. And I love to see how we progress, but I'm also so excited to see how we can continue to transform. And I did learn, I think Nelson Mandela taught me that we will, and all these other victims taught me that we will all be victims of some situation of pain at some time or another in our life. But we are the people that get to choose whether we become the victim of pain or victimized for life. For some reason, I can't relate to victims. I've personally gone through a lot of challenging, life-threatening crises, and one was watching my husband escape the 7/7 bombing. And one thing I was certain at that time, because it was very traumatic and I went through a lot of trauma, that I wasn't going to become victim. I wasn't going to become victim to that trauma. And again, anger and turning it angry or becoming a bully doesn't help that situation either. And interestingly enough, today I've actually kept in contact with those children on the field that were bullied by the bullies. I've kept in contact with both of them. And what I've seen with the passage of time is that the bullies are the people today who are in the most pain. They are the people who are lonely. They are the people with so little friends, and most of them are terribly unhappy. And the children who were bullied, who have managed, I mean, obviously some were victims and those ones haven't done very well, but the ones that managed to rise above the bullying and not become a victim are far more resilient, and they have found meaning and purpose in their life. And I know personally from finding my own purpose that there is no better happiness than finding the purpose coming through the pain and actually being successful and seeing that there's both sides of it, because there is. And I couldn't deny that I lived in a happy bubble, but it wasn't true. It wasn't real. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens in the world, but it's actually so rewarding when you learn to navigate through it and find clarity. And I also think that I'm passionate about showing that other people that it's possible to learn to respond to no matter to any terrible situation. So that's why I'm here.
Wow.
Finished. I'm not a good talker. I'm a much better writer. So.
Did pretty well.
Thanks.
I don't want to embarrass Nikki too much. So,
Don't.
but I just want to say, like, we got to know Nikki just over a year ago, and I've seen, just like from conversations we've had, and she slips in out. I was just doing something for somebody. Just went to like take some bags of food to somebody that's like self-isolating, a woman that doesn't have any family here, or a Holocaust survivor that's like been unpleasant to her, and just like she just does acts of loving kindness non-stop. Really a very special person.
A lot of the people in this group do too. They really do. So it becomes contagious. And I actually really like surrounding myself with those kinds of people. That's true. I found that I didn't want to be surrounded by so much negativity. I actually enjoy being with the people that I feel I can relate to.
Wow. My heart was moved. I felt it here. I felt like being sucked into a vortex of what you were saying, and nothing else was around. My heart felt it very deeply. It's good to know, because we've been working together quite a lot over this, that, and the other, and sort of. But I didn't quite know who you are, and that's the point of this thing. I didn't understand. I feel as though a bit more relaxed now. I know who the real Nikki is, and that makes a big difference to the friendship, and to the care, and to the commitment to relationship, and to the calmness of it. It's very powerful. Does anybody else want to say anything before we move on? Well, the silence implies a no. So I will start off the next section. Yes? Oh, that was just a cough?
No,
I
just wanted to say I was very touched by the story that Nikki just gave us. And we've never met in person, but we talk a lot through the phone and WhatsApp, and I can feel that she is very genuine in everything that she does. And the story that she just told actually connects to what I have been actually thinking and what I've been feeling of her. And I'm very happy to have met you, and I'm very honored. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I produced, we do, a poll, a weekly poll, but this one is an unusual one. And it's not. It's discussing a relatively failed fundraising campaign for the Mandela Week program, but it's not a fundraising poll. It's not a guilt trip poll. It's an attempt to understand. We sort of, I think Nikki put out there that anybody can give something to this 67. It can be 67 pennies. It can be £6.70, $6.70, 67, whatever. And only 2 people gave something, and I'm intrigued as to why there was such a low response. But again, this is not a guilt trip poll, but I'm interested in if you can answer this poll here and see what we come up with. Okay, launching poll. It's you can give more than one answer on this one. It's a multiple choice, so you can answer as many as you want to click. Wow, I can see the results coming in. So for me, it's quite interesting. So when I end the polling, I will publish the results and you can see them yourself. But have we all finished, more or less? Shall I end the poll? No, somebody just answered there. I'll give it another little bit. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Yes, yes. And once it's end, you can share the results. You can all see the results. So, okay, so the overwhelmed with charitable gifts, that's the leading one. The red one is the leading one. Okay, so thank you for that poll. And the question, yeah, I should have read the question out. This is not a guilt trip, purely loving research. So
Shira says also, I didn't want to give 67.
You didn't, oh, Shira, was that, who said them then? I would like to share.
Yes, here, chat.
Chat. Okay, I will see the chat there. So from Shira, for me, simply, I didn't want to give 67p, but also didn't want to give £67 based on having too many charitable requests. Found a figure a little limiting for some reason, and then the request dropped off my radar. Thank you, Shira, for that. That's a good piece of information. Great. Okay. That was trying to put together Loving Classroom South Africa. Any questions on the poll, or should we move on to the video? Actually, does anybody also have a 4-H thank you they did this week that didn't report last week? Because not everybody did the 4-H thank you, but it's a bit of a while back since we've done that. Okay. So, yes?
Well, I know everybody's been thanking the NHS and thanking the NHS, but I want to thank someone personally, and so I went online and I found that there's a parking site that you can rent out your parking for free to people in the NHS, and so I put my parking, made it available online, and a very lovely nurse that's working in the liver department around the corner from me has been parking in my drive, and I've got to know her and we've been speaking, and it's just been, yeah, it's just been great to connect to a stranger that I would never have connected to otherwise.
That is lovely.
That is amazing.
Wonderful, wonderful, Simone. We love you very much.
Simone, we love you very much. Simone, we love you very much. Simone, we love you very much. Simone, we love you very much. Woo!
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay. Wow. Great story. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So now we have this week's video coming up. Take that away because I want to make it. Oops. Hold on. Getting there. Oh, wait a second. I may have forgotten to press a certain button, and Nomi pointed it out. So I'm going to stop sharing and start again. Well done, Nomi, for reminding me to press those 2 buttons. I forgot. Dear loving facilitator, welcome to your students' top 5 class virtues. The idea is simple and the impact profound. Coordinate a class discussion with your students to determine what top 5 class virtues they'd like to live by. And then once a month or week, have a discussion to evaluate how well do we feel we're living by these virtues. Please remember, this symbol on your waiting to get started slide is a reminder to begin each lesson with an uplifting story that sets the tone for a loving classroom. Here's my intro story for this video. A fellow Loving Classroom trainer gave a talk to an audience of teachers in Manchester, and by way of example, he mentioned the 5 virtues tool. A few months later, he met with one of the teachers who was at the talk, and she gave the most amazing feedback. You know, it really works. Since using that 5 virtues tool, I've stopped having to discipline my students. Whenever it gets rowdy, instead of shouting and wasting energy, I simply point to the top 5 virtues that we've hung up on the wall and ask them, is this the way you want the class to be? Sometimes they'll say, it's different, miss. In which case, I respond, really? And with a sheepish grin, they concede. Oh, okay. After a lovely 2 minutes chatting about what's the problem, without any discipline, we simply carry on in a good energy. I save loads of time and the learning atmosphere is great. Thank you. Up until now, we've been giving answers from around the world regarding who is the humanity being. Here's a Loving Classroom summary answer. Just like a human being contains many different organs, limbs, cells and parts working together in harmony, so too the healthy humanity being is the many different parts of humanity working together in harmony and thereby enjoying great fulfillment. And respect, the topic of this section in the course, is recognizing that everyone has something to contribute for a healthy, happy humanity being. Respect is knowing there's goodness in everyone. Let's help each other to reveal and develop that goodness. This enables us to define terms which could easily divide us. For example, good and bad. In the old days, people would say, who are you to define good and bad? But with the humanity being, we can now offer a very useful and unifying definition. Good is that which draws the humanity being together, building healthy, caring relationships. And bad is that which rips the humanity being apart, destroying healthy, caring relationships. Now let's come up with some goodies for the class. First of all, have a class discussion. How to respectfully disagree. What 5 guidelines would you give for having a respectful discussion with people with whom you disagree? In your PowerPoint, there's a great video for triggering a quality discussion to answer this question. If you have a Loving Classroom textbook, record up to 5 answers in the 5 bubbles. Then the warm-up respect game. Without pushing or squabbling, in 1 minute, line up in height order or alphabetical order of your names. 1, 2, 3, go! Now to your top 5 class virtues. Have a class discussion to make a list of at least 20 virtues. Then agree upon which of the top 5 you'd most like to have as part of your classroom environment. And then have a weekly or monthly class discussion to evaluate how well you think your class is living by each of the top values it chose. 5, very good. 4, good. 3, minor problems. 2, a few serious problems. 1, very problematic. Such discussions will greatly help your class to master its top 5 virtues. If you can't agree on a score, take a vote. How many think 1? How many think 2? And so on. Whichever score gets the highest vote, that's your class score for the week. During the next couple of days, ask for some volunteers to produce a large evaluation poster to hang up on the wall as a public record of your class progress. To the right of this video, as listed in lovingclassroom.training, you'll see a box that you can click to get various sized evaluation posters. And to complete this lesson, a short ponder. Take a minute to scan everyone in the class and respect each individual with the following thought. You want to live by our top 5 class virtues. That's wonderful. The world's a better place with you in it. Well, that's it for lesson 5. For everyone you meet, may you enjoy thinking the world's a better place with you in it. We are building a loving world. Okay, stop share. That was video number 5. Any questions or thoughts?
Or comments?
Or comments?
Can you see yourselves using it as well?
Yeah, I think I would need a little bit more guidance about how to go about using them.
So this is what we'll do. Great, thank you, Simone. So here's the homework for everybody on the group this week. Are you ready? So based on the idea, have a discussion with your family members to come up with your top 5 virtues for your home. They're not necessarily the Loving Classroom virtues. They can be, if you have the copy of the book, there's a whole list of 20, 30 virtues. You can Google virtues, you'll see 100 virtues. And then, but the trick is to come up with your top 5 in a way that's not pushy. Like sometimes I even saw teachers, when there was a discussion between the kids, saying we prefer health over honesty. I saw the teacher lose their temper. What? How can you choose health over honesty? Use and she lost her calm. So the goal is to have a nice discussion about, make a list of, 20, 30 virtues, and then discuss what are the top 5 for your home. And then once a month, if you want once a week or once a month, have a discussion. How well do you think we are working by these virtues? Are we living them? You can even spend a little bit of a discussion defining what they are, because sometimes you'll choose a virtue and it's not so clear when you start talking about it what they are. Even if you take the basic simple respect virtue, what am I meant to respect that guy who robbed a bank or committed a terrible dastardly crime? What's that mean? So it gets a bit complicated defining these terms sometimes, and you can look it up in a dictionary, Google it, and you can come up with your own thoughts. But once you have a sense of what that word means and how it applies to your family, then once a month you can have a discussion, or once a week have a discussion for the period of 10 weeks or so, until somebody's birthday or an anniversary or the end of the year or some sort of date. You do it for a certain amount of time, and you evaluate your family once a week. How good are you on these discussions? Another thing's interesting is that sometimes, if there's 5 members of the family, 4 of them will say, well, we're pretty good on respect, actually. And the 5th one will say, well, I don't think we are. Or if you're paying attention, they won't sort of enthusiastically agree, yes, we're good on in respect. And you can ask them, why are you not enthusiastically agreeing that we're good on respect? And you will find that sometimes people answer, well, I'm not sure there is real respect. It's more and there'll be a discussion. But if you remember previous lessons, the goal isn't to punish somebody if they say something which is a bit frustrating. They may say something which hurts you or hurts somebody else. And the goal isn't to, obviously they should say it as lovingly as possible, but they haven't done the Loving Classroom course. So it's a bit difficult to get into that. But that's why you had that section on, let's see how we can disagree in nice ways. But they have a discussion as to why they feel there's not so much respect, and you can figure it out. And many a time a child will say, well, maybe there's lots of love and everything, but I don't have enough time with my dad, or something like that. And dad will suddenly, oh gosh, do I have to spend time with this kid? And but these sorts of discussions start to happen, and then they come up with a resolution, so the father doesn't feel like he's in prison, and the child feels he gets once a week, they go and watch a film together or something like that. So many discussions come out of evaluating how good are we on these 5 virtues. Of course, I'm just giving an example of respect. That doesn't have to be down there. Whatever 5 that you feel are important for your family. And please, within, let's say, 3 days, unless you object vociferously to this exercise, but maybe within 3 days, before the end of the week, let's put it that way, you can post on the Loving Training, our WhatsApp group, what 5 virtues your group chose. So by the end of the week, if you can share what the top 5 virtues your group chose, and then next week we'll look at all those virtues and choose the top 5 virtues for our group, this Loving Training group, from all the virtues that everybody chose. That was a summary, maybe trying to answer Simon's question. Any additions from Tulani, maybe? Was the video any good or a load of rubbish?
I'd like to say something.
Yes,
okay.
First of all, Nomi, if I may. Sorry, thank you.
Just in the introduction, the very first video, Simon, David mentioned, we're going according to the Loving Classroom book. So sometimes we refer to the book. And the book was referred to in this film that we just saw. So if you don't have the book, then it's like, wait a minute, what were they talking about?
No, I do have it.
Okay, well, so that's great. But if people here don't have the book, so it can be a little bit confusing. Like, what are they talking about? But the other suggestion that he made in that first video was, I suggest, like, you watch the video again and then pause it. Wait a minute, what did he just say? What are we meant to do? What did he like? And then further clarify what was said. And then, okay, now I've got it. Write it down or something, and then carry on to the next bit, because I noticed he went very quickly over different exercises to do, and it might have been too quick for you. So, sorry, you can definitely like watch it again, and then think about what was it that he was saying that we should do.
Right, and I have to work it out at the moment, and I'm not trying to make money off of people, but maybe we come up with a session. I can give everybody, I don't know if it's paid, but at the moment, to get to the 5th video, you have to pay for it. So we'll solve that problem next week.
You can see it like on the recording.
Oh, yeah, we'll send the recording so you can watch the video again. Excellent idea from Nomi. So if you want to watch the video again, you'll see it on the recording that we publish on the weekly on our training thingy. Yes, we have a couple of minutes left before we have to finish. Thulani.
Yeah, no, what I wanted to add is that the key to this exercise is that you must make sure that the people that you are doing this exercise with are the ones that are coming up with the virtues, not you guiding them towards the virtues, because the important thing later on is to have them own up to these virtues. Like the teacher, the example of the teacher that was on the video is that if the kids themselves are the ones that came up with the virtues, then that is easy for the teacher to go back and say, you know what, at the end of the day, you are the one who said we should live by these virtues in this classroom. And now you are the one who is not living up to the things that you said you wanted to live up to, as opposed to the teacher going and writing to say we will live by these virtues. Now it's gonna be difficult for the kids to own up to these virtues, because they are not their virtues. It's not their virtues, it's the teacher's virtues which came with them into the classroom. What you can do is give a guidance, maybe with an example of one virtue, like David did, of respect. So in class, for an example, we encourage our teachers to talk about challenges that are there. Look at the challenges that are there. Make one example of a challenge. Like, okay, if we have serious late coming, one virtue that we can put up there is that for the rest of the year, maybe no late coming in classroom. That is a guidance towards what kids can then come up with based on challenges that they face in the classroom.
Fantastic. And one final point there is, I guess some of us don't have kids in the house, and we're just 2 of us, husband and wife type of thing. So you can do, or maybe one. I'm not sure if it's one. So make up your own list for yourself, or at least for you and your wife or husband. Talk it through with whoever's in your household. And if it's just the 2 of you coming up with the list, that's also good, because we have to become love engineers and masters of being totally and absolutely positive love engineers. So even if it's just 2 people coming up with a list, that's also good. So look forward to seeing your lists. Any questions before we say goodbye? Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
We love you.
All right, thank you. Have a great week.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great life. Bye.
Bye.